Your growth as a coach is not just your ability to teach a person how to play the game. Your ability as a coach is about how to connect with people, how to manage people, how to schedule, how to recruit, how to, there's a lot more to it than just running a practice. Keep things in perspective. Like, we're here to serve. Coaching is a service-oriented career. So you are here to serve, and put your egos aside. Success to me for the players would be that they continue to play.
Welcome, Andrew Montenegro, to The Young Athletic. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Pat. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for coming on. I was just mentioning that last interview I had with Cam, we talked about you and your presence and your ability to communicate with your team. It strikes me like you're in control without being controlling. And it's like, it's an art. And we're trying to figure out, us younger coaches trying to figure out how you do it so well.
It's, well, first off, it's been a lot of years of experience. I've been doing this almost 30 years now. So there's been a lot of trial and error. I'm very confident when I was a younger coach, it was not as easy as it maybe looks now. And I think what I've learned from some of my mentors is when you have to demand control, you don't really have it.
Yeah.
So if you can explain to people what you're doing, why you're doing it, and understand that some will agree with you, some will not, and you just accept that as part of the outcome, most people will fall in line if you follow through with what you say you're going to do. So even if you're a young coach and you say, hey, this is how we're going to run practice, this is why we're running practice this way, this is how I'm going to lead the team, this is why I do it, here are the boundaries, then people respect that. And age now helps me. I'm pretty much older than a lot of the parents I coach now. When 25 years ago I was not. So I think age helps, but it's really just about knowing what you want to do, how you want to do it, and then making it very clear to people why you're doing it that way.
Being prepared.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Is there a turning point where you feel like you got that, where it just clicked for you and you said, oh, I feel like I'm achieving the things I want to achieve?
I think obviously, if you asked other people who knew me, 25, 30 years ago, I think I've always been pretty calm. I think I've always been pretty well-spoken. And so I think I always was able to connect with an older audience. So even when I was, 20 years old, coaching club, I was still able to connect with parents because I was educated, well-spoken, and could articulate things. So I think I've always had that ability. I think where I got better, I can relate it to two things. One is my wife. She was my girlfriend at the time. She gave me some very good advice about how words matter. And so I was coaching this little girl. Her name was Amy Lee Smith, and she played center mid. She was probably 11 or 12 at the time, and we were playing I remember it specifically, we were playing the Blues, and they had a girl that could, drive the ball up the field, and Amy Lee being in the middle, you were expecting her to head the ball or play the ball out of the air, and she didn't. And so they got onto 2 or 3 breakaways, and we ended up losing the game, in essence, because of those plays. And during the game, I was yelling at her, to head the ball. Actually, what I actually said was, use your head. And I repeatedly kept saying it. And of course it didn't happen. And after the game, my wife and I get in the car, and she basically says, why did you call Amy Lee stupid? And I looked at her and I was just like, I didn't call Amy Lee stupid. I don't remember using those words. And she said, you kept telling her to use her head. And my wife, who never played sports, interpreted that as those words basically calling Amy Lee stupid.
Yeah, like not thinking.
Exactly. She was not thinking. And so I said, no, I just wanted her to head the ball. And my wife looked at me and said, well, words matter. Tell her to head the ball. So that was one moment where I was like, wow, if I want people to understand what I'm doing, make it very clear. Yeah. Here's what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. This is why I'm doing it this way. And I hope you can support that. And so I kind of just took that, mantra on. And then I had another mentor by the name of Alberto Bru. Everyone calls him AB. And he just gave me a lot of wisdom, from I started working with him right around 30, and he just gave me tons and tons of wisdom about, how to articulate things to parents, because I was still younger than most of them, and he's the one that taught me about how to create boundaries. Explain to people how you want to be communicated to, give them your time, let them know they have your time, but provide parameters. And so he helped me in the how to connect to adults, people who were older than me at the time. My wife was the one that kind of gave me the insight of how to use specific words.
When you talk about using specific words, do you have to have them like organized before you say it? Like, if you want to be specific, you have to be clear in your own mind what you're going to say. Do you take time to prepare those things, or is it you just understand it intuitively?
Both. I would say both. I think with the kids, I call it kid talk. So like when you talk to the players, because obviously I coach all age groups. I mean, I have, the 2016s and 15s. So those are all 8, 9, 10-year-olds. And then I also coach at UCSB. So they're young women. So the verbiage you use is different. With you're around me with the little ones. You see that I will joke around with them. I'll tell them stories. I'll make jokes, and I try to connect with them because I try to talk in their language, and so sometimes the older girls make fun of me because I know some of the slang today, but it's all because I coach these little girls. And then, so I would say part of that is just intuitive, and me being able to connect with little kids and just kind of understanding how they talk and some of the jokes. And I have kids of my own, so that helps. With parents, I definitely plan things out. I will definitely create presentations. I'll have PowerPoints, and I understand more now because I'm a parent of how valuable their kids are to them. And so I want them to know that they have my time, but it is within my boundaries. Just like a teacher would do. You can't just go into the classroom and demand their time, but if you email them or contact them, they'll give you your time. So I'm the same way. I'll give parents my time, but when I'm available, not just when they want it. So that's the boundary part.
You mentioned those two different age groups. How do you relate and communicate to them differently? The 15s and 16s and the college girls.
Truth be told, like the college girls are adults, so some of our conversations that we have are, I don't want to say personal because like I'm not diving into their lives, but they'll come in to the office. At our school, our doors are wide open. So pretty much at every minute that I'm in the office, the door is wide open. And the girls come in. Sometimes they have questions about school. Sometimes they have questions about life. Sometimes they'll just come in because we do weekly check-ins with the players. So we have assigned groups. So sometimes people come in just to chat. Sometimes people come in at their own because they have a specific question about soccer or the team or their role. But you can have very, very serious conversations with them because they're adults. And working at UCSB, these girls are highly intelligent. So, we're able to talk about politics, different things. So it's just like you and I. It's adult conversations. Yeah. With the little ones, I've always worked with little kids. Ever since I started coaching, I've always had 8, 9, 10-year-olds in my in my realm of the teams I was coaching. So even if I had high school teams, I would still have a little team. So the little age group, I would say, is kind of my wheelhouse. I feel like I'm just kind of know the psyche. Like to me, they're very motivated. They're very excited, and they love their team. So everything's in my favor. With some of the older kids, they kind of see maybe they're not as good, so they're just doing it for their friends. And so sometimes their motivations are different. With all these little ones, they're talented. So I'm very fortunate. I've worked with some very talented young players. So I have talented kids. They're hardworking. They're focused, and they love their team. And and in many situations, little kids also like their coach a lot because as long as their coach is nice and treats them well, they're going to like their coach. Yeah. So I'm just able to kind of connect with them.
So you've always sort of been not drawn to it, but just sort of connected with younger teams?
Always.
Yeah.
I've never had a year so I've been a coach now. This is my 27th year coaching. So I've never had a season without at least one team in those age ranges.
Wow.
I've always had a little team.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I have these 2016s, and this is the youngest I've had.
Okay.
So I've always had like middle schoolers.
Okay.
So
yeah, I enjoy like let's just call it the 9 through 12 ages.
Huh. Yeah.
Because they're starting to be able to play soccer. You can see it. You can see it with your teams. Like, they're starting to be able to make more decisions, quicker decisions. They're starting to be able to execute those decisions. When they're real little, it's hard.
Yeah.
But these kids are starting to like make those, turn those corners.
And some coaches love the younger ones too. Like Laura loves the little ones. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah, I equate it to like teaching. There's some people who are born to be kindergarten teachers.
Yeah.
And there's some people who are born to be middle school and high school and college. I pride myself. Again, you could ask my teams and you can ask the girls at the college. I feel like I do a pretty good job of being able to move up and down that, those ages. But if I had to pick one that I'm probably most equipped to manage, it's the little ones.
That's special.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
It's kind of their first experience with soccer. Hopefully I don't screw it up.
Yeah, well, you're doing a great job. Let's talk a little bit about like challenges to youth development. You've been around the game forever. You've coached these little girls forever. What do you see as challenges to learning for them?
Well, those are two different things. So to me, there's their own challenges. So, young people, not just young people, all people have their own difficulty with what they're capable, what their minds are capable of grasping, and what they're not. So there are your own challenges with learning. Some people are visual learners, some people are auditory learners. So there's all different ways that people learn best, and it's hard, because we're not in a classroom, so I don't have PowerPoint presentations for every single kid, for every single practice. So you're very much relying on auditory and visual learning primarily. And so some kids are really good at that. Some kids are not. Obviously, it's toward the end of the day. They've all been at school, so now you have attention issues with some because they've been in a classroom for 6-7 hours. Yeah. So there's all those dynamics that each individual brings. And then there are the external factors, do they have good parental support? Do they have a good family situation? Are they coming to practice hungry? Are they coming to practice, enthused and ready to go? And those factors are all based outside of themselves. Yeah. And so those can be, extremely difficult, especially if they don't have a good home life, if they don't have a good healthy situation. Sometimes they bring that to the team, and you don't always know that as a coach.
Yeah.
Sometimes families confide in you, sometimes they don't, and you kind of have to figure it out on your own. But yeah, I think today the third thing that's now happening is the screen time. I think a lot of kids I see it with my own kids, not as motivated with sports. They're finding alternative things on the internet, gaming, lots of different video stuff. So I think there's now another challenge that athletes are going to face.
Screen time,
for sure.
Distractions.
Yeah. I mean, you and I can't speak for you, but for myself, I'm on my screen a lot more than ever in my life. I mean, there was a time in my life that didn't exist.
I know. It was a good time.
That was a great time.
Good time. Very little access to the internet. No cell phone.
Yeah. I didn't have any of that stuff as a kid.
What about the flip side? What are some of your best teaching tools?
Well, some of my best teaching tools, I do try to utilize the, basically technology. So I will send. Sometimes I'll send PowerPoint presentations to the team or the parents and say, here's our training methodology. Here's how practice is going to run. This is, and sometimes if I have time, it's hard during the fall because I also have the college season. But in the winter and spring, I'll put together my lesson plan on a PowerPoint and then I'll send it to the kids, and it'll be 3-4 slides. So they'll be able to look at it and then just say, okay, this is what practice is going to be like. This is what it's going to look. And I definitely prescribe to the notion that I don't try to have a million different activities.
Yeah.
You know, I try to have variations within my activities. So, you know, some people will come to my practices and say, wow, they're so basic, they're so simple, and they are. Soccer's already hard. So why am I going to make these extremely difficult activities when I have 8, 9, 10-year-olds? So practice will be, you know, fairly regimen, you know, go through a rondo, positional game to goal, and then we'll play. And what changes is the variation. So maybe the size of the grid, maybe the numbers in the grid, maybe do you go to goals? How do you create transition in the game? And then obviously coaching points will vary. You know, there are some coaching points that always stay the same because I don't care how old you are, angles, distance, lines, separation, you know, breaking lines, some of these things are just, you're constantly working on them. And then some things are more specific, like technical repetition and things for little kids. So you're not just coaching their growth of their decision making, you're also coaching technique. I don't have to coach technique as much with the college girls, so it's really just about decision making. So little variations like that.
When did you put together that like PowerPoint slide presentation? Like when did that as a concept form?
Well, obviously at a young age I started going through my licenses. All the licenses required that at that time. I would imagine, you know, 30, 40, 50 years ago that it didn't, but obviously in today's, you know, coaching world, all the licenses do that. So that kind of presented the idea that you could utilize technology for your benefit. Obviously for the course, you just used it for the course, but it gave me the notion of I could potentially use this to help kids and help make my appearance and my presentation to parents more trusting. Man, this coach is organized. They know what they're doing. So you put a little bit of effort in, you hopefully get a lot of reward for it.
But how did you develop your methodology? You know, where did your ideas come from?
Oh, you steal it from everybody.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not reinventing soccer.
Yeah.
You know, that was one of the things that AB taught me was AB in the youth level. AB is, if they had a Hall of Fame for youth coaches, he'd be in it. I mean, he's won 4 national championships. He's coached hundreds of kids, maybe thousands of kids that have gone on to college. You know, I can't even name how many that became pros. So from a youth level, he's somebody I emulate, and he was always somebody that would say, Andrew, you're pretty good at what you do, but if you were great, you'd be coaching Barcelona, you'd be coaching Real Madrid, you'd be coaching the national team. So like, let's keep everything in context. We're youth soccer coaches. We're very good at what we do, but you know, by no means am I Pep Guardiola, or, you know, my favorite was Zidane.
Pep,
you know, yeah, exactly. Who's Pep? You know, so I'm not those guys. You know, but I feel like I'm pretty good at what I do, mostly because I can connect with people.
Did you have a stronger desire to coach? I mean, you're a D1 coach now, but did you have that desire all along when you were getting your licenses?
Yeah, I would say I always wanted to challenge myself. So when I first started coaching, yes, I was coaching little kids, and I always worked with little kids. And yes, I had goals of climbing the ladder in the, let's just call it the U.S. soccer world. And yes, college was definitely my goal at the time. I coached at Oxnard College. I coached at Cal Lutheran. So I was kind of making steps in that direction. But when my wife got married, when my wife and I were married, she got pregnant with our second child. My wife looked at me and said, like, we're not pursuing the college world, because at that time it potentially meant, you know, going from one job 3-4 years later, going to another job, and she wanted to be somewhere very stable. And so that's when I just put all my attention into the club world, and I stayed there, and been in the club world, like I said, almost 30 years.
You're the director for LAFC, right?
I was a director for the Eagles. I worked at the Eagles 11 years, and then I was one of the directors. I wasn't the head director, but I was one of the directors at what was Real SoCal and then became LAFC. I was there for almost 14 years. It was 13 and a half when I left. And then...
So 11 years with the Eagles and then 13 and a half with Real.
Yeah. And then Santa Barbara Soccer Club for 2 years. And now I'm at Ventura Surf. So Santa Barbara Soccer Club kind of helped me get in the door a little bit with UCSB. It was a nice little joint collaboration where I was able to work at both because they were so close in proximity. And then at UCSB, we changed our training time, which enabled me to get a job a little closer to home because I live in Camarillo. So it's a lot more convenient on my way home to stop by Ventura, run my practice 2-3 days a week, and then just go home. So that helped.
Well, I mean, those are great experiences. I'm sure you've picked off, bits of information from each of those experiences. What are some highlights that come to mind?
Well, yeah. I mean, I've had a lot of. I don't like to take credit for the success of the players, and that includes a lot of coaches I think make this mistake of saying I developed that kid. We didn't develop any of these kids. These kids develop themselves.
Yeah.
You help.
All the best ones do.
All the best ones do. And your job is to help them.
Yeah.
Help them identify their strengths, help them identify maybe areas of growth, help them identify ways to work on them, and present new ideas, especially for kids that are advanced. Keep challenging them with new ideas of the game or new concepts, and so you're there to help. But we're not the driving force of their knowledge. They are, but we do help foster the learning environment. And so I learned lots of things at the Eagles. It was very early in my career, and I learned how to form teams because that was my main job at the club, was to form teams. So I learned how to recruit. I learned how to talk to adults. I learned how to talk to parents. I learned how to manage teams. At LAFC, I learned how to lead others because my role was now more of a still a youth development role, but I was still now I was also helping lead other coaches, and I started to learn how to work with my peers and how to lead my peers.
So like a director of coaching?
Yeah, I wasn't the director of coaching, but I was basically right underneath him, and so he gave me a lot of basically he gave me a lot of power. I think what you said, control without controlling. He basically gave me a lot of leeway to learn and grow and make mistakes, and trust me, I made tons of them.
Yeah.
But he helped me along the way. So that was where I kind of learned how to lead others. And then obviously at Santa Barbara and UCSB, definitely working with Paul Stumpf at UCSB. Paul has definitely grown. He's helped me grow a lot in terms of structure of training and how to get specific topics out that we want. And obviously we're working with high level players, so we can work on more things. So that was a great challenge for me, and it's been a lot of fun. I'm very much enjoying it.
Yeah. Would you say you've learned a lot in that time with UCSB?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I would, again, others would be able to tell you, because I think it's hard for people to self-evaluate. But yeah, I think I definitely grew.
Well, you're a reflective person. I'm sure you're honest about it.
I try to be.
Yeah.
I try to be.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a cool experience. I thought about, trying to be like a college coach one day, but I enjoy, club coaching. It's its own little, grind. It's very different.
It is. It's very different. I think, obviously, I'm in a position right now where I don't have to choose.
Yeah.
I think I would like youth coaching to always be part of my career. It's very special to work with little kids, and at the college, I'm doubly blessed. I have 2 girls at the college that I actually coach as youth players.
Wow.
And so for me, it's really special to I mean, obviously, I like all the girls on the team, but there's
Yeah.
those two players. I've seen them grow from when they were 8 years old to now, and I've been a little part of that. Not I haven't been their only club coach as a
Yeah.
youth coach, but I was one of their club coaches, and now I'm one of their college coaches.
You help with the recruiting. Are you the head of recruiting for the team?
I mean, we all recruit, but yes, I'm the lead recruiter at the college.
What do you look for in a recruit? What makes a player stand out?
Well, I'm going to steal this from Paul. Paul makes it very clear there are 4 things that we look for at the college. Number 1 is we want a kid that has a burning desire to be at our school. So we're not interested in being somebody's 7th choice, 8th choice. Like, we want to be towards the top of their list, because that means they're going to stay, because soccer does not always go the way they want. So that means that they have a desire to be at our school for multiple factors. Being at such a high academic institution, we need good students. So that's a must.
What's a good student? 3.5, 4.0, 3.0,
Well,
3.0?
I believe the average GPA at UCSB right now is high school age entering in from high school is right around a 4.2, 4.3. So it's very high. Clearly, students can get in with lesser standards than that, because obviously not everyone has a 4.2. There'll be some 3.8s. There'll be some 4.5. So it varies, but we have thresholds in the department. There are what you call special talents in college, where certain departments are allowed to bring people in that have special talents. So sometimes music departments have what they call slots. Sometimes art departments have them. Sometimes some of the science programs have them. And so athletics has special talent. So we can get students in that meet certain requirements that might be a little bit below the normal academic standard.
4.2.
Yeah. But I'm
I
working
wouldn't
with the
have
women.
gotten
I wouldn't have got in. I mean, I did get into UCSB as a high school student, 25 years ago, but today I don't think I would get in.
Yeah, 4.2 is it's excessive.
Yeah, it's pretty high.
So those are 2 points. You got 2 more points of.
So those we have what we want, what we call high character kids. In college, you're going to be spending a lot of time with your teammates. Many of them are going to be your roommates. Many of them you're going to be living with for years. You're going to be around them, 5, 6, 7 days a week. So you have to have people with high character, people who are going to uplift each other, not necessarily drag each other down. And so one's a little bit more difficult to see, because we have limited access to them as when we're recruiting players. So you get to know them as well as you can, and then obviously when they're at your school, you're going to get to know them more. And then the last one is we're just looking for good soccer players. Like, it's not complicated. Like, soccer's a game of decision making, vision, technical ability, and then a word we use in our methodology is relentless. So we want players who are relentless, both offensively and defensively. We want players who are going to make good decisions and have technical ability to make the plays they want. And so it's not hard to find what we're looking for. What we don't know in the process is who's hit their ceiling and who can keep getting better. And so that's where some kids, grow in college, and some kids grow a little bit in college. Some kids grow a lot, and that's the hardest part, because we have no idea about that one. We can just kind of gauge their work rate, and we hope that they haven't hit their ceiling.
Interesting. I mean, sometimes you can tell like a kid has a lot of talent, but it's so raw.
Sure.
Do you ever come across that? Like, one of your recruits looks like they have a huge ceiling, and maybe they don't live up to it.
Yeah, I mean, yes, that definitely happens. There are players who you recruit, and they underachieve in what you thought they were going to do for your program. There are clearly some that exceed what you were going to do, what you thought they would do, and then I would say most of them hit what you kind of anticipated. But there's definitely people on the other sides of the spectrum, and you're just, if you need a little luck, You need a little bit of skill set to identify talent. You need a little bit of luck, and you hopefully identify more of the players that exceed expectations. Look, talent evaluation is the hardest thing in the world. How many, what, Tom Brady win the 6th round?
Yeah.
Harry Kane got cut from Arsenal. Yeah, Harry Kane got cut from Arsenal, and then he went to Tottenham. Like, talent identification is one of the hardest things in the world.
Interesting. Is that something you want to keep doing? Like, I don't know, like a general manager one day?
Oh, no.
No?
No. I mean, I could see myself leading, if God willing, I'm in the college world for a long enough time where I can get a nice retirement. And then if I want to get back into, leadership at the club level, I'd be okay with that. I don't really want to pursue the professional world. Like,
Yeah.
I don't, it doesn't really excite me. I like working with young players.
Was it ever appealing, or was it just kind of a passing thought?
I can't. No, it wasn't ever really appealing. I mean, you have to remember, professional opportunities when I started coaching basically didn't exist. Yeah, the MLS didn't exist when I started coaching. The MLS started at some point early in my coaching career, so professional opportunities. And before the MLS, there was USISL, there was indoor leagues, but nobody was making a living doing that.
Yeah.
So coaches did it, they got paid, but it was not the same. Now, obviously, you can make a career of it, but those are new experiences. Those are new things in the last 10, 15 years where you truly could have a career.
I think it's exciting for like players too, because there's more chances to go pro.
Yeah. You have USL, you have MLS, you have NWSL. The women are creating multiple leagues. We'll see what U.S. Soccer does, and if they can actually embrace USL instead of pushing back, with the whole fight between MLS and USL. Like, hopefully U.S. Soccer can figure that out. But yeah, there's so many opportunities all over the world now, and American soccer has improved so much where our players are not just playing here; they are playing all over the world.
Yeah.
And especially on the women's side. The women's side, we have players all over the country, all over the world playing. It's really exciting.
Yeah, we've got the best women in the world, so
yeah,
that makes sense.
Definitely.
Is the NWSL the premier women's league, would you say, in the world? Or like the EPL and La Liga are the top two, maybe
in
Bundesliga in Europe.
Those are the top two in Europe. I would say the NWSL, because I've seen lots of different levels throughout the world in women's sports. I would say the NWSL is probably the most balanced league in the world in terms of the top team to the bottom team. It's probably the most competitive. I would say clearly, the Barcelonas, the Madrids, the Chelseas, the Arsenal women. I mean, those teams are better. If Barcelona came and played our NWSL, if they played Angel City, Barcelona's winning.
Yeah.
So I definitely believe those teams are better, but I would say the league is more competitive in the NWSL.
Interesting.
That's just my opinion. I could be wrong.
I don't know much about the league. I just know that Angel City's super popular right now.
Yeah. It's great.
Events. Yeah,
it's great.
You've had such a varied experience, and you seem, pretty content with where you are with your coaching right now. How do you measure success for yourself and for your players? What does success mean to you?
Success to me for the players would be that they continue to play. So if I do a good enough job, they're going to continue to enjoy their experience. They're going to continue to want to improve. They're going to continue to want to be there. So retention, to me, with the youth players, retention, even at the college, retention is a very good metric that it demonstrates people are enjoying something about their experience to the point where they want to stay. Because obviously in the college world, kids can transfer pretty much on a dime. They're disappointed. They can hop in the portal. It's kind of wackadoodle.
Has that happened to you guys?
so this is my 4th year at UCSB, and we've had 3 girls leave in the portal. So that's less than 1 a year. And, there are some schools that lose double-digit players, every year. So, to me, it's wackadoodle.
Gnarly.
It is gnarly. And I don't want to judge those programs because I don't know if, are they leaving just because they're not playing enough? Are they unhappy? I don't know. And quite honestly, this sounds bad, but I don't really care. Like, that's not my responsibility. My responsibility is to help our program. And so it means a lot to me that players stay. So that demonstrates something positive is happening.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing in the club world. If players stay in the program, obviously if they're on the first team, most kids stay, but you see sometimes when kids get moved from the first team to the second team, sometimes they quit. And it says a lot when those families stay. That means that they still trust the program. And so I would say retention is a huge part of my success. Not my success, but in measuring my success. And then, I see it, I'm now old enough where I am coaching kids. Like, kids I coached, I'm coaching their kids. So I actually have, parents on my team I coached.
Yeah.
So that also demonstrates to me that personally something positive's happening, because
otherwise they wouldn't come back.
Why? Yeah, if they didn't enjoy their experience with me, why would they want their kid to have the experience with me? So it demonstrates again that there's a positive thing happening where they want to, they're okay with me being a part of their kid's journey. And so that to me is a big measurement of success. Clearly at the college, there is a lot more pressure into results. At the youth level, I've been very blessed. I've worked with some really good teams. I've worked with some really good players. I've worked with kids that have played in the World Cup, kids that have played with the national team, kids that are playing pro. I've been very, very blessed.
Do you think A-level coaches are drawn to A-level players and B-level coaches are drawn to B-level players? You say you've always had good players and that means, you've always pretty much had the A teams, the top teams.
Well,
those things just kind of find each other.
The reasons I had the first teams starting at such a young age was because I formed them. So again, my biggest role at the Eagles was to create the teams. So in essence, I was the youth director, and every year I was there, I formed the brand new team. And so that kind of became one of the things I was pretty good at. And so why'd I have the first team? Well, I had the first team because I formed the team. And so it was just kind of a natural, progression. It had nothing to do with my abilities as a coach, because I was literally 20 years old, coaching kids. And so my experience level was very limited, and I had some mentors that were good. That was very helpful. But that's why I coached the first teams, because I formed them. So and then over time I got better, and so now I get the pleasure of working with the players because somebody thinks I'm a good coach. So that's kind of how it worked. But I didn't mind. I didn't care. I didn't always have first teams. I would have a second team sprinkled in there, So I worked with your 16. So in essence, I have the first team, you have the second team. But all of last year, I coached both teams. So I have no issue working with little kids. I don't really care of the level. But I don't know. I can't speak. I have a very competitive personality, so I think I am drawn to more competitive people. But.
And maybe they're drawn back to you.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, you'd have to ask them.
Did you always want to be a coach? I mean, you said you started at 20. That's a young time to decide your career.
Like lots of people, I had dreams and goals and ambitions to try to play, and those I learned, I reached a decent level, but I learned pretty quickly that I wasn't good enough. And so kind of going through things, I was always coaching. So I actually coached my first team when I was a senior in high school. Bill Bailey, you know Bill. Bill works at the club. Bill.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You've known Bill that long?
Yeah, I've known Bill since I was 5 years old.
Oh, I didn't know
So
that.
Bill's son and I, Justin, we went to kindergarten together. And then Justin and I played sports together. We played baseball together. We played a little bit of basketball together. So I knew the Bailey family since I was 5 years old. And Bill was always a local sports guy. So he coached baseball, he coached basketball, he coached soccer, and there was two coaches in the area, Bill, and then there's another one by the name of Tom Scarlett. They were primarily my baseball coaches, and Bill was running a club at the time called Millennium, and it was the biggest club in Ventura, and I was a senior in high school, and my dad had a rule when I was a kid that I had to play multiple sports, and even through high school. So I played multiple sports my whole life. And when I decided I didn't want to play baseball my senior year, I was going to go to college. I knew I was going to college. I knew I was going to play in college, play soccer. And I knew where I was going. I had already been recruited, all that stuff. So I was kind of like, I don't want to play baseball anymore. I just want to focus on soccer. I want to train more. I want to do more. And my dad said, well, if you don't play baseball, you got to get a job. That was our rule. If I didn't play multiple sports, because I played soccer year round, but then I had to throw in another sport. And so my dad basically said, you got to get a job. So I was pretty upset, went down to the local school, Anacapa, right down the street from our house, just kicking the ball, taking shots, doing some things. And Bill comes up to me and he says, hey, Andrew, you want to help me run this little girls' team's practice over here? And I said, yeah, sure. So I walk over there and I just helped the girls do some little technical work. We did some one-on-one activities, 2-on-2, and we played, and it was tons of fun. Bill asked me afterwards, he said, hey, I lost my coach. She just got the assistant job at UCLA, and so she's leaving, and I need somebody to work with this team. Would you like to do it? And I asked him, I said, I always called him Mr. Bailey. I said, Mr. Bailey, I hate to ask this, but would you pay me? And he said, yeah, I'll give you $300 a month.
Wow.
I ran home.
That's a good deal for that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great deal. It was more than I would have made at like McDonald's.
Yeah.
So I ran home. I went straight into the house. I said, Dad, I'm quitting baseball. I got a job. And so from that moment, I always coached. And I didn't coach full time, because I was in college. So I'd coach high school, soccer during college. I'd coach a club team, one team. I would do something. So I always coached. Once I got done, pursuing playing, I basically said, okay, what do I want to do? So I always enjoyed working with kids. Mm-hmm. I always enjoyed the learning environment. So I thought I'd be a teacher.
Oh, yeah?
So I went back to school, started getting my teacher credentials, started getting my master's, and I just didn't really enjoy being in the classroom.
You tried it? You were in the classroom?
I was in my student teaching
yeah.
at that point. So I was actually, going through the process and going and observing classes and being in classes. And so it just wasn't for me actually being in the classroom.
Yeah. And
so I ended up changing my mind, and I was just like, okay. I was still coaching at the time. I was coaching like one or two teams, and I just said, I'm going for it. And I just started coaching full time, and it just started growing. And luckily for me, youth soccer grew in our country where you actually could make it a career. And then I kind of went from there.
Wow.
So, yeah, I could not imagine doing anything else.
You always had the inclination to teach.
Yeah. I always enjoyed the learning process, helping people with the learning process. I consider myself, I don't want to say educated person, because clearly there's people who are smarter than me, but I consider myself someone who is articulate, who enjoys learning and enjoys, getting better at things and enjoys the learning process. So yeah, I've always loved working with kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, when I first graduated college, I went back to my high school to coach, and I did that for a couple seasons, and I loved it. And I thought, like, I got to leave and get a real job. So I did. I went and worked in an office for 4 years and learned, some good things. But one of my mentors there was like, you're not this isn't the right place for you. You should go back to working with kids. And so I did. Got back into coaching. But,
Yeah.
it was like, you knew right away. And I kind of figured it out, like, the office is not for me. That kind of environment is not for me.
Yeah, I was coaching this young girl by the name. Her name was Caitlin McKechnie at the time. I don't know. I coached her older sister. Her older sister, her name was Ashley. So I was coaching Ashley and Caitlin at the same time. It was on one of the very first teams I coached, and Caitlin played at UCLA. Her younger sister Hannah played at UCLA. Ashley also played in college. She played at Ventura College, and then so very talented family.
Mm-hmm.
Their dad, again, I was like 21, 22, 23 years old. I was young. And her dad came up to me. His name was Scott. And Scott said to me, he said, Andrew, I'm going to give you a little piece of advice. And I said, oh, really? Well, yeah, I'd love to hear it. And he said, if you can find what you're passionate about, and if you're able to make that your career, you'll live a very happy life. And so I was always passionate about working with kids. I was always passionate about sports. Obviously, soccer was the sport of choice. Mm-hmm. And when I wasn't good enough to be a pro, I did the next best thing, and let's go work with kids and play soccer. So, wow. That was a really good piece of advice he gave me. And all those girls they're all married now, so I don't know their married names, but that was a really good experience to have, a parent, because he was a parent and I was a young man, give me a good piece of advice. So it's worked.
Yeah. What are some of the changes you've seen to, youth soccer at the club level from when you started to now? Like positive changes. Because obviously the sport has grown, organizations have gotten better, more professional, ideally.
Yeah, the coaching's better.
Okay.
I would say, obviously there are still some people who probably shouldn't be working with kids that are still in the game, but that's just the reality of the size of our country. You can't have great coaches everywhere. But coaching has improved. With that, the talent level has improved. Kids' understanding of the game has improved, just like our country. If you look back at some of our early World Cup teams, like, not to be disrespectful because I know some of these guys personally, but like if you look back at some of the 1990, 1994, obviously had good players. But the depth of our talent, the technical and tactical abilities of our country have grown. And so that has evolved tremendously in the women's game, specifically in the women's game. The growth of the game, understanding of the game, technical ability, tactical understanding, those things have grown tremendously. So I would say the game has grown a ton in our country, both on the men and women's side. The other thing that has grown, some of it's good, some of it's not so good. Obviously, it has become more business-like, and the positives with that is better people are in the profession because you can actually make it a career, at the youth level. Obviously, we have pro academies now, and so many of those things, resources for kids, have grown and improved. So that's a positive. The negative side of the fact that it's become a little bit of a business is it's very expensive, and so sometimes that weeds some kids out of the sport because unfortunately they can't pay for it. So kind of a double-edged sword, but there are some positives with it. Parents were good and bad. You want supportive parents. You want parents who are there, are going to pay the bills, take them to practice, take them to the games, not cause problems. Like, you want all that. You want competitive parents. Well, if you've got competitive parents, they're going to have demands. So, it's a double-edged sword. You want people to respect you, but you have to earn that respect. It's not just given.
Yeah. I remember when I first started coaching, I was afraid of the parent interaction. I don't know why. I just felt pressure. But now I love it. It's like, yes, we're in it together, and I want you to understand what we're trying to do too.
Yeah, it's evolved for me. When I first started, again, I was young, so I'd hang out with the parents. I would, they wanted to get a beer in the hotel after. Oh yeah, sure, I'll join you guys. So it was very social. And then I slowly started to learn, our relationship, no matter how friendly it was, the relationship was built off of what I could do for their kid and what their kid could do for my team. So the relationship was very generic when it started. So obviously some relationships I maintained, but some, once I was no longer their coach, it was gone. So that's where I started to learn, okay, I got to create some boundaries. I got to be respectful because they are the client, and look, I'm coaching kids. These parents are doctors and nurses and lawyers, and they own their own businesses. These are successful individuals. Like, many of them are smarter than I am, so I give them their respect. But I learned where to kind of create boundaries, and that was something I had to learn. I learned that the hard way. That was through a lot of mistakes. Like getting to know people, and then people trying to manipulate you and trying to get things like, oh, come on. And so I learned right away, I can create a relationship, but there's got to be boundaries. And the true relationship is with the kids. That's the true relationship. And I'm very fortunate. Many kids that I coached when they were little, I still communicate with, whether it's text or email. I'll still get questions like, hey coach, what do you think of this? And so that means a lot to me.
What's the longest team you've had? You could take a club team theoretically for like 10 years.
Yeah.
What's the threshold for you, and what makes the threshold?
Well, first off, I think we talked about this earlier. Some people are really good at certain ages. So some people are good kindergarten teachers, and they can teach kindergarten, preschool, first grade, and that's kind of their wheelhouse. And then some people are good at middle school. Like you said, you really enjoy the middle school ages. So I think some people are really good at specific ages, and then I think there are some people who kind of go up and down the spectrum. I want to believe I'm somebody who can go up and down the spectrum. So I believe I'm capable of working with players for a number of years. What coaches make the mistake of, in my opinion, it's not you that has difficulty with the ages. The kids evolve. The kids are so much different. Like, if you look back when you were 7 years old compared to when you were 13 years old, you're a completely different person, maturity-wise, life experience. You grow so much as a person. So that's where I think it is very valuable for players to have different experiences, because they change. You're not going to change that much as an adult. We change a little bit. God willing, we change a little bit. Better. We get better, a little bit better every year. Yeah. These kids grow a ton. Yeah. So that's where I think they benefit from having different experiences. So I've had teams. I had one team I coached, I believe it was 5 years. And luckily for me, there was a little gap. So I coached them for about 3 years when they were little. It's actually one of the girls on the callers right now, Emily Coy. It was actually her team. So I coached it for about, I think it was 3 years. I coached it at, I think it was 10, 11, 12. Then we had like a break. They had a couple different coaches, and I had them at like 14, 15. So okay. I don't think it would have been healthy for them if I would have had them all 5 years in a row. So I do think there is a limit. I think if you have a good connection with a group and they're still learning from you and they're still motivated to be there, I think a good 2 to 3 year span is kind of when I would think I would tap out.
Yeah, I tapped out at 4 with my last team, with my boys team.
What made you realize you were kind of over it?
Some of the players I would have loved to continue coaching, but it's kind of the same thing. It's like they need to have a different voice. They need to have a different experience.
Yeah.
They need to learn from somebody else. I can't teach them everything.
Yeah.
So it's just an awareness that, like, it could end poorly if we hold on to this too long, or we can just, let it go and we can have a new experience. So
sure. I think that's great that you saw that, because I think some people hold on to teams a little bit too long, and one of the things AV taught me was it's always better when you talk about coaching transitions, when you're moving one coach from one team to another, and you have those transitions, he always would tell me it's always better to do it a year earlier than a year late.
Yeah.
So because when things are going well, doesn't always mean you have to stay with that group. It doesn't, because again, go back to the kids are the ones that are performing.
Yeah.
So if it's a good group, it's going to be a good group with you, and very likely going to be a good group without you. So it's okay to transition off a little earlier.
That's what I appreciate about the 2015s that I have right now, is like they definitely have their own identity.
Mm-hmm.
I need to like shift it a little bit, more towards soccer, but
Sure.
they have their own energy, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm just a guest on that team. They're their own thing.
Yeah.
But 2 more questions.
Okay.
What advice would you give to younger coaches that are just starting out, or a couple years into the game?
Piece of advice: surround yourself with lots of variety of people that you can learn from. So like I said, my wife didn't play sports. My wife was a dancer, and she,
Some people might call that a sport.
Well, it's a.
But yeah,
I mean,
I know
it definitely. You definitely have to be coordinated, but it was not a competitive sport in that context. In terms of what I consider a sport, I love the arts. So don't get me wrong. I love dance. I love the arts, but she was the one that kind of gave me that little nugget about communication. She was a psychology major, so that was very helpful. Scott McKechnie, who gave me that piece of advice of following my dream. So I surrounded myself with people who were smarter than I was, and had different life experiences. And then clearly, I was very fortunate, had some very good mentors as a young coach. So surround yourself with not just soccer people, but surround yourself by lots of different people with different experiences that you can learn from, because your growth as a coach is not just your ability to teach a person how to play the game. Your ability as a coach is about how to connect with people, how to manage people, how to schedule, how to recruit, how to, there's a lot more to it than just running a practice. So if you can surround yourself with lots of different people that are good at different things, you'll learn a lot. So that's one. I guess the other piece of advice would be just be humble. We're not rocket scientists. I'm not inventing a cure to cancer. Like, thank God I'm not. We'd be in a lot of trouble. So, hopefully, people who are coaches just keep things in perspective. Like, we're here to serve. Coaching is a service-oriented career. So you are here to serve, and put your egos aside. Obviously, you got to have a little bit of one, because
You want to compete.
You want to compete, and you got to be confident in what you're doing, but you got to also understand, like, there are much more, I don't want to say valuable, because people value what we do, but I think there are much more critical jobs in this world, So I find value in what we do, but, there's, just keep everything in check.
Yeah, I'd agree, but also some of my favorite adults in my life were my coaches.
Yes, we can make
a good impact.
You can make a big impact.
Or a bad impact.
I would say the same thing. I mean, I mentioned 2 of them. Bill and Tom were very influential people in my life, and I don't get to see Tom as much, obviously, because, I'm older now, but I get to see Bill still. I get to see Bill fairly regularly still.
I didn't know that about you and Bill.
Yeah.
Lastly, what's the future of soccer? We've come so far in the last, I would say, just 20 years with MLS, with the youth programs. What's the next 10 years of soccer look like? Or ideally, what does it look like to you?
Truthfully, I have no idea. The amount of evolution of the sport from when I was a kid to now, I would say for the first 35 years of my life, started playing at whatever, I was 5, 6, 7 years old, however old I was. Soccer basically didn't exist in terms of, there wasn't girls were playing. If girls wanted to play wanted to play soccer, they had to play on the boys' team. There were no girls' leagues. There were no girls' high school teams. Like so, soccer went from basically non-existent for most women to just kind of being a local, sport that you played, and you played AYSO, and then it kind of faded. So, luckily for me, it grew while I was a youth, and so college became a possibility. High school was a possibility. Then, as a young adult, the MLS became a possibility for people. Now, on the women's side, there's obviously lots of opportunities. But so I would say for about 35 years, it grew very slowly. And like the last 10 to 12 years, it has just skyrocketed up in terms of leagues and opportunities, and it's going to be very interesting. The college world is evolving a ton.
Do you have to deal with any NIL stuff?
Yes and no. I mean, clearly there's girls on our team that have NIL deals.
Oh yeah.
We're being a mid-major. We don't have the same resources that some of the bigger schools have, so it's not as big of an issue directly on our team. But what becomes an issue is sometimes we lose out on a player because other schools can offer. So NIL is not. Again, I'm working with women's soccer. At our school, NIL is an issue for the basketball team, for the baseball team, and so there are some sports that it is a bigger, obstacle or challenge. For us, it's not as big, but it's growing. My first year, it was like one girl. Now I'd say a handful of the girls have their own deals that they've kind of
cool.
created. So that in that aspect is good, but I really don't know. I hope it's hit a plateau. In terms of, I don't want to see continuation of all these different leagues and just all this competition. I hope it kind of will stay where it's at for a little bit longer. College is going to evolve. I'm not 100% sure how, but that's going to happen. That's where the most changes happened recently. It has been in the college. U.S. Soccer is now trying to get involved with.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, so.
That like year-long schedule?
Yeah. I mean, college soccer, more for the women than the men, is a breeding ground for pros. So I think U.S. Soccer is seeing, we can embrace college soccer more than they have in the past. And so we'll see. But there's going to definitely be more changes to college soccer. And obviously that's where my biggest part of my focus is right now. Obviously I love my club teams and I give them as much attention as I can, but obviously my career path right now is in the college world. So I'm hoping the changes are positive, but there's definitely changes coming.
Yeah. It's an exciting time.
Very.
There's hopefully the future is bright for U.S. soccer.
Oh, the future is absolutely bright. I mean, the amount of talent, the level of talent, the quality of the athletes, the quality of the instruction, all those things are improving. And it's just going to keep getting better, especially as our pro levels grow. That will foster down into the youth. And again, I'm not going to claim that I'm Pep Guardiola or anything like that, but I think I'm pretty good at what I do.
Well, I agree, and a lot of people agree as well. So I've been speaking with Andrew Montenegro, also known as Monty, of Ventura Surf and UCSB. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Pat.